Welcome back. Borno State, one of Nigeria's gateway of international trade with about 6 countries of West, Central and North Africa, has been hardly hit for years by the deadly terror group Boko Haram. Channel's business news editor Bosno Mofai sat down with Borno State Governor Honorable Kashim Shettima last week in Maiduguri for an exclusive interview on the economy, business, investments and, of course, reconstruction of the northeast state. This is the first installment of the 3-part interview.
Well, as at that time, things were much more robust. The inflow from the Federation account was relatively on the high side, so that after payment of salaries, we might still be left with some amount to engage in some productive activities. But side by side with the economic prosperity was the security challenges that we inherited. Right from day one, it was all about how to catch in the rampaging Boko Haram. And this is a scourge that if it was addressed promptly earlier on, it couldn't have metastasized into the conflagration that nearly consumed the whole of the north. But as at that time, things were equally pretty tough, especially within the city of Maiduguri. It was later on when they were driven out of Maiduguri that the Boko Haram sought refuge in the outlying local government areas in central and southern parts of the state. Otherwise, initially it was largely a Maiduguri phenomenon.
In terms of what the size of the economy, in terms of trade and commerce, in terms of taxation, was the state really buoyant in terms of what you need?
Actually, at the time we took over the mantle of leadership, things were relatively stable. You know, at the risk of sounding immodest, Borno is the most strategically located state amongst all the states of the Federation. Borno shares borders with 3 countries, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. We are about the only state in Nigeria that enjoys that privilege. And taking into cognizance my background as a banker, I can attest to the fact that at a point in time, Maiduguri, where I was heading, was the highest cash processing unit of a bank in sub-Saharan Africa. We were processing up to ₦1 billion cash per day, which bears testimony to the economic relevance of the prosperity in Borno State. Even the Kano economy largely depends on Maiduguri. If Maiduguri sneezes, the Kano economy catches cold. So generally speaking, apart from Lagos and Port Harcourt, in terms of economic viability, in terms of vibrancy, in terms of opportunities, Borno is second to none. And our people, we do appreciate the fact that our people are intrepid business people who, against all odds, are endeavoring to keep their businesses alive. So generally speaking, at a point in time, Borno was the leading economy in northern Nigeria. And we believe that in the coming months and years, I am absolutely certain, you can even say with gringo arrogance, that we are going to regain back our lost glory. I am absolutely certain, because it's very ingrained in our very nature.
Since the insurgency got full-blown, as it were, talk to us about the state of Borno State finances. Are companies still being able to pay tax? Are you still being able to what you get from Federation account? And talk to us about.
Well, naturally, the insurgency had tremendous negative effect on the business life, on the economy of the state. In any situation of generalized insecurity, it doesn't favor economic activities. And as the insurgency rages on, naturally business began to wither. traders, business people, and artisans, herdsmen. They were not only systematically targeted by the Boko Haram for extortion, but were equally eliminated. So there was a mass exodus of people, of vibrant economic agents out of Borno to much more sober climes, and that impacted negatively on us. Our tax base literally disappeared. We were living largely from hand to mouth. It was the Federation account, proceeds from the Federation account that was sustaining us literally. And when oil plummeted from $114 in 2014 to less than $32 earlier this year, the effect was catastrophic. But what we really hammered on was that we ensured the salaries are paid. You might be amazed why in this age of challenges and so on, because I really were not keen on compounding our security challenges with a labor unrest. That was why we were adamant. Up till now, we are not owing even a single month's salary, both the state and the local government employees, because they tend to recharge the local economy. Paying salaries goes a long way in keeping some businesses afloat. So that was why we were adamant that by all means, we must pay our salaries on the 25th of every month.
The natural question from here is, how have you been managing this very scarce resource you've been getting?
Somehow, we plan ahead of time. Hitherto, I made sure that in my reserves, I have 1 or 2 months' salaries, so that on the 25th of every month, I ensure that salaries are paid before the process of the Federation account hits our system. Because I know our people, even in the best of times, especially the civil servants, who are the poorest of the poor. The take-home pay of 18,000 naira, believe me, hardly takes anybody home. I was in the banking industry. I know what I was earning. My driver in the bank earns higher than a director in the civil service. So that goes to show that these people need to be treated with a great deal of empathy and support. Because if we try to play by the rules, if we say, okay, we don't have sufficient money, we are not going to pay salaries, the effect will be much more catastrophic than you and I could imagine. Labor unrest, when the state is literally under siege by the Boko Haram, you will only compound the mess.
Have you been asking for financial help? Have you gotten any?
So far, the last administration gave us 200 million naira. When President Buhari assumed the mantle of leadership, one heavy burden that he lifted off our shoulders has to do with the feeding of the IDPs. Hitherto, it was the state that was bearing the brunt of feeding the IDPs. NEMA took over the feeding of the IDPs, who only supplied the condiments, the tomatoes, the peppers, the oil, the salt, and so on. And that greatly eased our burden. And the president is so passionate about Borno, having been a governor of the Northeast, having been the first governor of Borno State. He knows the terrain very well, and he has a great deal of empathy for this part of the world. The greatest gift he has given us so far is the security of lives and properties. A year ago, you cannot venture 10 kilometers out of Maiduguri. If you go beyond 10, 15 kilometers, you are in a Boko Haram territory. Maiduguri, Zambua, Biu Road was off limits. Maiduguri, Mapa, Dikwagam, Burungala was off limits. Maiduguri, Gajerem, Monguno was a no-go area. The only accessible route to Maiduguri that was repeatedly attacked and was on the verge of falling to the Boko Haram was the Maiduguri-Kano road. Even that one was not spared of sporadic attacks by the Boko Haram. So more than any monetary assistance, the greatest gift we got from the Buhari presidency is the restoration of peace and harmony in this part of the world.
Now that the current administration and the president has given you a breathing space, as it were, what manner of economic reconstruction are you working on right now? How are you leveraging on this relative peace do you have at the center of the state to move things on very quickly on the economic front?
Well, one of the most important things, John Maynard Keynes once said that in periods of crisis, of economic crisis, if it means you are going to pay people to dig holes and pay them to cover up, it's absolutely important that you keep the people engaged. And as Vivian Green rightly pointed out, you can't wait for the storm to pass. You have to learn to dance in the rain. We might not have the complete peace that we are clamoring for. There are still pockets of Boko Haram attacks here and there. But the most important thing is, one, to keep the hope of the people alive. Secondly, and most importantly, we need to appreciate the fact that underlying all this insurgency, beneath the mayhem of Boko Haram, underneath the nihilism lies the real cause, which is extreme poverty, destitution, and the inability for millions of youth to find a space of relevance in the 21st century working space. These are some of the great drivers of the insurgency. We have to adopt a holistic approach towards addressing these challenges. And you might say, how? First of all, we started mass housing projects. We have built more houses in Borno. Yes, driven by the housing deficit, but at the back of our mind is to keep the youth engaged. It's absolutely essential. We have built more houses in the past 4 or 5 years than in the past 25 years of the existence of Borno. We have invested more in agriculture because agriculture provides the only safety valve for us to get out of the woods. Our major priorities are agriculture, education, infrastructural facilities, which includes housing, roads, water, and sanitation.
Well, the second part of Borno Governor's exclusive interview with Channel's Business News entitled Doing Business in Borno comes up tomorrow on the program, that is on Thursday. We're back after this. Join us again.